Order. Can we have a roll call, Nikki?
Yes. Commissioner White,
Here.
Commissioner Cullen,
Here.
Commissioner Calder,
Here.
Commissioner Ravago,
Here.
Commissioner Adams. See immediately. Okay, no Commissioner Adams just yet. Commissioner Glenn will not be joining today. Commissioner Sparrow,
Present.
Commissioner Purcell,
Here.
and Commissioner East.
Here.
Hey, Pledge of Allegiance. And you want to start us off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all.
Okay. Public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. The public may request that items be added to a future agenda. No action will be taken on any matter raised during public comment period that is not already on the agenda. Persons making comment will be asked to begin by spelling their name for the record. Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, do we have public comment on the internet? Seeing none, it appears Commissioner Adams has joined us. Okay, review and approval of the agenda. We will be removing item number 6 from today's agenda. Are there any other comments or changes regarding today's agenda? Seeing none, can we have a motion to accept today's agenda?
Commissioner Ravago, motion to accept agenda.
As noted, item 6 being removed.
As noted with item 6 being removed.
I'll second. Curtis call. I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Okay, we have an agenda for today. Shall we begin? Review and approval of September 20, 2023 meeting minutes. Do we have any discussion, any adjustments to that set of minutes?
Yes, there should be adjustments.
Yes, they do. Commissioner Adams.
Okay,
On the commissioners' reports that we're using unmaintained county right-of-ways to designate OHV routes. And also working on keeping an eye on SOAR in the Amagosa Valley as well as the Pahrump Valley. Or just my 2 corrections or additions.
okay.
Halfway.
Got those, Nikhil?
I got Commissioner Adams' corrections.
Okay.
I have one of my own. I did not note who made the motions to approve the last meeting agenda. And so I can fill it in. I just need to reference the recording again. I didn't catch those names. Unless somebody in this room remembers. We did.
Any other corrections? Okay, we'll need a motion to accept the September 20 minutes with the corrections as noted.
Commissioner Purcell, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections.
And a second?
Second, Curtis Calder.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was not present at that meeting. Do I still vote?
I've seen it go both ways, but ordinarily abstaining is what most people do.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained? Okay. And the motion passes. Item number 8. OHV safety programming and emergency response in Nevada for discussion only. Bill, you wanna
I believe,
let us open this up for us?
yes, the next note on here says Commissioner Ravago will lead a discussion about OHV rider safety and possible solutions. So that is a topic today. Commissioner Ravago has brought this up during the roundtable in multiple previous meetings. So we wanted to agendize it this time. We've got a few different documents that should be shared. My Google Drive is not playing this video right now, but we've got a few pictures and some different experiences to bring to the table. Turn it over to Commissioner Ravago before we get into, and I'll just support anything that he brings up.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nikhil, for adding this to the agenda. The topic says, lead a discussion about OHV rider safety and possible solutions. I don't think there's ever a solution. There's not accident prevention that it's going to happen. It's to come up with some strategies and how to mitigate risk and loss. And I'll go in chronological order. I want to just acknowledge at the OHV summit out in Tonopah, one of the noted speakers was a gentleman named Richard Gent with the railroad safety. That was a lot of great presentations, but that one resonated very well with myself and the people that we serve out in Southern Nevada, because we did again have a loss of a UTV rider and his son a little over a year ago. And Rich Gent put on a powerful presentation, enough that I shared with some various UTV rental groups out in Southern Nevada, and they're going to have Rich Gent out to do some trainings, whether physically or through Zoom. Rich Gent's going to be coming out and doing some courses. He was more than welcome to speak to some UTV club that we may have him out Dunes and Trails. And we hope that message spreads so we can have his message, his theories, his thoughts on rail safety. Quick quiz. Anyone know how long it takes a train to stop? From the moment they hit the brakes?
Forever.
Forever. That's a great, yeah.
Could be for the rest of you.
It was one of the quiz questions that he had. It's a mile. It takes 1 mile to stop a train. So Rich Gent can be, I don't know if we have, I'm looking here at okay, Rich Gent, just for the record, it's Nevada Rail Auxiliary Teams. He can be reached at 775-867-3803. Hot Rail Group, so www.hotrailgroup.com. He's got a Facebook page, Rail Auxiliary Teams. He picks up his phone when you call him. I've had numerous conversations with him. And yeah, for anybody listening, reach out to Rich Gent if your organization, your group, club, organization, rental outfit would like some rail safety training. On a couple of weeks ago, I think, Matthew, you were out there for SEMA, and you invited me along to the University Medical Center training facility. And Matthew, could you kind of go over what we kind of Cliff Notes version of what we discussed?
Sure. So as most people in the off-road community don't understand, helmets are required nearly everywhere in Nevada by the operator on an OHV. there's a gigantic difference between what's required in the NRS and what actually happens, and also what the enforcement is. I am firmly of the belief that it's up to the individual, but that's my personal stance, but the NRS tells us something different. What we had been asked to do over the last several years is try and address some of the issues that we have up at Sand Mountain. We have about 1 or 2 fatalities a year, usually Easter and Halloween. 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, it was 2 children shot, no helmets. Rolled, they were in the back seat. Mommy and daddy survived. The kids in the back did not. So that kind of got us into this big, long spiral. And I was at the trail conference. It was held up in Sparks, I guess 1.5 years ago. And as I was leaving, Jorge Montero, who is the pediatric injury prevention leader for Renown, grabbed me on the way out saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you. How are we going to make this better?" And we got talking, and Kevin Bailey, who's actually on the call today, I just noticed is up there, had hooked us up with Axel off-road helmets. The Axel off-road helmet is a, if you can imagine, sort of a little bit of a beefier version of a skateboard or a bicycle helmet. Provides a certain amount of protection for whoever's wearing it. And what we came to believe and still believe is that because they are so lightweight, you can put that on a 5-year-old. You can put that on a 7-year-old. They don't have the same neck issues that you would if you put a 4 to 5 pound GOT. Plus, they kind of have cool colors and so on. So through a grant at Renown, we were able to purchase, I want to say we put a total of 200-ish helmets on kids so far this year, which is a great big deal. And what we've decided to do is try and roll this out in Southern Nevada as well, which is where I invited Ken to come along and meet with their injury prevention team down there. They have a grant. I don't know exactly what their funding source is, but we're also not concerned by it because it's a direct pass through. And we are doing an event down there on the 30th of December at the Nellis Dunes in partnership with UMC, Nevada Outdoor School, Tread Lightly, Nevada Off-Road Association, and BLM is going to be there as well. What's really kind of cool about that is I did a quick trip to the East Coast over the holiday week last week, and when I got home, I had 5 boxes of helmets that our house sitter had stuffed like in the foyer, which is another topic altogether. She's still mad at me. But we have 150 helmets that we're going to be giving away the 30th of December down there. And it literally is a matter of providing an engagement opportunity with the decision maker for that household. Putting the helmets on there, that's a really easy visual thing that people can get their brain around. That's really not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're meeting with you, the parent or the uncle or whomever brought the kids out there. And now we're having that conversation about why it's important to use PPE. And that goes just so much farther than, hey, here's a helmet. And part of it also includes, in order to get that helmet as a free helmet, they have to participate in an online survey that we're doing. Scan a barcode or a QR code, whatever it's called. And it goes through the, why do you wear helmets? And a lot of times it's they don't. They're inconvenient, they're hot, whatever, all the things. And we're actually being able to create a database for helmet use and PPE in general, which is kind of cool. The hospital groups want to make helmets a mandatory statewide law. And we're like, it's already there. Don't mess with it. It's already there. Let's allow our community to build this from the ground up. And kind of in a odd coincidence, Commissioner Ravago, why don't you pick up from there about who was at that meeting that had done your Stop the Bleed and where that all comes together? Because I had passed on to her at one of the other meetings about your incident that I imagine you're going to get into here shortly.
You're putting me on the spot here. So Yvonne Ramos.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stop the Bleed. I would say about 6-8 months ago, conducted a training class during one of our monthly meetings at the Dunes and Trails ATV Club. Outstanding response. Taught us how to apply tourniquets on dummies, on each other. Some call me dummy. So it was so effective that I could see like during the meeting, these folks, some who don't normally order on Amazon or do a lot of people ordering tourniquets in mass, and it just turned out to be a very enlightening event. Just like the statistic on how long it takes a train to stop. I mean, there's so many aha moments during that training about leading out, for lack of it, getting graphic, but it's very, very powerful. Good to have her on board. Thanks for allowing me to attend that. Just for the record, is on the 30th of December, is that, you mentioned Nellis Dunes, is that the lake? Did we move that from the lake bed?
We did, at the suggestion of the Bureau of Land Management. They said that we will have, I think the phrase was a much more target-rich environment at Nellis than you would down at Jean. And incidentally, with the whole UMC injury prevention program, what was fascinating was the same nurse who did your thing. I didn't know because I didn't go to your Don't Stop the Bleed thing. And then, we walk in and we sit down and have this meeting with them, and it's like the same instructor because our community is this big. It really is. And the same thing with EMS and anybody that comes out of that background. So it's kind of a cool gig. And then, having a forward-looking, assertive posture with first aid and all that type of stuff, again, comes into play. And I'll let you finish.
No, and with the permission of the commission, we've tried to shoehorn or fit Stop the Bleed attending a meeting like this, whether we bring her out or she works and does the class remotely. I think it'd be very impactful. The selfish part of me would want that meeting to be in Las Vegas for an upcoming commission meeting, just shameless plug, 2024, to have a meeting in more moderately good weather or a little better weather.
We could actually incorporate that into a module at the summit, should we get funded for it next year.
That's something that can be considered, again, offline. So yes, so we have Stop the Bleed, which leads into the next, really the whole rationale. A couple of weeks ago, our club had a Veterans Day ride. We honored our veteran riders. It started off just a beautiful day out in Cold Creek, Nevada. We had about 32 machines, 12, 13 veterans. We did a coffee and donut celebration for our vets. Again, belated Veterans Day to people in the room who've served and online. And it started out again as a beautiful ride pegged for 75 plus miles. So during the course of the ride, we had various stops, smelled the roses, smelled the tumbleweeds, and we did a lunch stop. And shortly thereafter, we had an incident. And we did have
I do have the video. I got it. Work.
Really?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Gosh, Nikhil, you're a rock star. So why don't we just kind of play the video? We did edit out of respect to the person who had a mishap. We edited out all the graphic parts of it, and then I just want to let's just play the video.
Let's see. Coming out of my phone, so hopefully it's.
This video was produced by one of our club members, the Dunes and Trails.
That's the Augusta helicopter, in case anybody's wondering about the manufacturer. Just saying.
Oh, the one that.
I've flown those.
Is that going to cast? Oh.
The audio is going to be hard to cast.
Can anybody online here? Or?
I don't think they can pick up any audio.
Okay, so we were on a power line road heading back to the trucks. And then we were parallel to the 15. And in that scrum there, a gentleman in a nearly new to him Pro XP was running down the power line road. Again, this is a guided ride with about 30 machines, and we were at a controlled pace. We don't know if he hit a washout, dust was an issue. see that berm there? So he hit the washout and then he took a tumble, maybe 3 or 4 times, and he ended up on his side like that.
Commissioner, was he with your group or is he?
Yes.
He was.
Yeah, he was in the middle of the pack of the group. We were on one power line. There are 2 power line roads. They parallel, and then they switched off into another. I was in the back of the pack, and that's how I walked into that. If you want to just pause it a second, I'm able to pause it. So just a little background. So at the time, yeah, dust was an issue. So we'd have to watch our speed. And again, as a club, we pre-ride these rides, a few weeks out, but terrain can change with weather, et cetera. And yeah, he ended up on his side with, when I came upon him, he was sort of cocooned in, and then for whatever reason, he really wanted to get stood up because of discomfort. So as a result of that crash, he had suffered 3-4 broken bones in his vertebrae, an artery issue. And Bill would say that if not for his helmet, he may not live to tell about the story. So he did have his helmet on, harness, et cetera. So some of the takeaways we got from this is, first of all, thank you to Verizon, because Verizon worked without a hitch. AT&T and some other things. Our club has a spot communicator device that we did not didn't have to hit the button. But within, I'd say about 30 minutes, there was that rig there was on the side of the 15, but could not get to us. They happened to be at Creech Air Force Base doing a training, and I want to acknowledge Fire Station 44, Clark County Fire Department, Mr. David Wells and his crew. They were up there within 30, 40 minutes, but just could not get to us. We sent OHVs out to try to pick them up, but again, they needed to get that vehicle to us. And again, it was fairly flat terrain, so not, in theory, you wouldn't think it'd be a big issue to get out to us. So while we're waiting on them, they dispatched the bird, which Matthew would call an Augusta.
It's an Augusta.
Augusta,
Yeah.
part of the pronunciation
Yeah.
issue. So the bird would circle, and he had to been circling for, it felt like hours. It felt just circling and circling and circling. At that point, I got on the phone. I think one of the first calls was to my neighbor who flies for Mercy Air. And I said, "Hey, Tony, is that you up? Is that you up there? If you're answering, you shouldn't be, because you're up in the plane." It was a buddy of his. And I said, "Why can't they get to us?" Well, unbeknownst to me, that maybe you guys would know, that you need a 50 by 50 flat terrain landing area. So he just kept circling and circling. At one point, just took off and I think tried something different. The plan was to pick up, get our down rider over to the either baseball field, ball field at Indian Springs, but somehow, some way, they were able to land the bird. Should we continue? Are you able to hit the button there?
Yeah. Let's see. So who was the first on the scene? Clark County?
Clark County, Station 44, David Wells and crew.
There.
I don't think there's very much more of it. If
Yeah.
not, it's not a big deal. So some other folks to acknowledge, Rachel Pierce, Las Vegas Fire and Technical Rescue. The Metro officer on duty that actually, after we were able to get our down rider on the fire rescue had a vehicle, like a John Deere, like a more of a farm vehicle with a board on it, so we could extricate our rider. That happened probably about an hour and a half after he took the tumble, and then we were able to get, based on that vehicle get that vehicle, that OHV type vehicle out to the waiting helicopter, and he was promptly flown out to University Medical Center for treatment. He remained there for about 4 or 5 days, and he's at home resting comfortably, waiting for that artery to heal so they can do the surgery on the orthopedic stuff. So, yes, it was quite a scare. And as an organized riding group, you know, there were so many takeaways, and I'm sure that's really the reason for this discussion here is what did we learn? What could we do better? I just do want to acknowledge the Dunes and Trails Club. There's a myriad of new members, old members. I could not be more proud of a group bonding together, coming up with a plan. People were taking leadership roles, subservient roles. From the moment that the gentleman had the issue, to keeping him calm, we had a visitor of one of the club members who happened to be a nurse. So Ms. Bonnie Morris, if you're out there listening, thank you very much for your assistance in rendering aid to our guy there. It just all worked out. But again, the club bonded together. One of the things that we did extrapolate from this, or what could we do better, is what kind of gear? You know, I'm sure there's representatives of user groups out here. Safety packs. Do we carry a neck roll, a neck brace? For what's in your first aid kits? Is there too much or too little? You know, Commissioner Calder sent me a video of a recent trip he took to Wyoming desert in their adventure bikes. And in the 10-15 minutes that I watched, I saw a guy take 3-4 tumbles, hurt his knee, go through a river crossing, and one guy almost bit it. I don't know if that was you, Commissioner Calder. Was that you? Did you need a little bit of help? So I thought this is not just a UTV issue. I mean, there's questions to be asked from all kinds of user groups. What do you guys carry? What do you not carry? You know, you have limited storage. So what should you carry? How do you learn how to use it? Okay. Never ride. Don't ride alone. Again, that's a huge one. If that gentleman was out there on his own, who knows when he would have been rendered aid, or who knows what would we have done? Also pulled away that our club has a sign-in sheet pre-ride that you fill it out, you sign your name, your emergency contact. Well, that sign-in sheet should have been carried with us, and I take full responsibility. You know, I led this little volunteer, this Veteran Day issue. I saw that sign-in sheet sitting on one of the trailers and didn't think to grab it. You know, note to ourselves is to grab it, because luckily, this gentleman is somebody that I know, I have a business relationship with. Had I not been on the ride, and if he fell unconscious, there's no way that we would know who he was. He's not an active rider these days, but there's certain things that we learned from this experience to make sure everybody's accounted for, because during that incident, we had some cars went wayward, some cars got lost. You know, we lost our head count. So just then there's another. Then we're worried about 2 other riders who were unaccounted for. So there were so many things pulled away from this. Anybody have any questions? I've done a lot of talking, so I really want to make this interactive. Any comments, insights? You know, open to it.
One of the biggest tools that we use, at least in the northern part of the state, because our cell service isn't very reliable. You can never count on having cell service when you're out in northern Nevada, when you get away from I-80, for example. And so having either a spot or an in-reach Garmin is an absolute must, because if you have a medical emergency and it's serious, you're not going to have an hour. And, you know, short of, you know, climbing to the top of a mountain where your cell phone might work, and that's a might, That's the only way you'll get communication out. And I've been out on these big dual sport motorcycles in central Nevada, and we had a medical emergency a couple of summers ago where a guy broke his leg and he thought he could ride back. And he teamed up with a buddy, and we had a spot, and we should have just spotted him and got the helicopter to that location right then and there. But he said, no, I'm fine. And I can just ride back to Eureka with my buddy. And so they took off. Well, he got about 30 minutes out and he started having medical problems, and they didn't have the spot at that point. And so now they're trying to use a cell phone. They finally got through to somebody's dispatch, Eureka's or somebody's, but they couldn't find them. The helicopter couldn't find them. And so the helicopter's flying around for an hour and finally does locate him and picks the guy up. And they have to fly him to Reno because he was pretty serious. So the lesson learned there is have a satellite communication device, be a sat phone too, I guess. And then if there is an emergency, even though it might not seem real major at the time, you know, a lot of these guys are pretty tough. Hey, I just broke my leg, I'll be okay. They can go into shock 30 minutes later. They can have some sort of major medical problem, and having a satellite communicator would be really critical, at least in the, you know, probably anywhere. They're such a low cost now. It just seems silly not to have one with you.
To your point, that there are Cyber Monday, Black Friday specials on the spot communicator. And a lot of these, I'm not sure about the InReach and the Garmin. There's an overlay of protection that you can purchase for medevac assistance and insurance. And again, that's a whole nother topic there, but.
I have a few comments on this. How does the commission think that we can use our grant funds or our dollars strategically to bring either awareness or provide package offerings to some organized clubs and agencies, saying that, hey, if they operate in this manner, they run group rides with this checklist, then they'd get that safety package that includes a spot, tow rope, etc. We need to find a way that kind of makes it a statewide message that says when you're going out in the Nevada desert, you need to carry these items, and try and message it in a recommendation type way rather than a requirements type way.
No, and it'd be good to do something, because I know from our experience deer hunting years ago, we were up in Elko County somewhere, and we had camped, and that morning at 4:30 or something, we're getting ready to go, and this quad goes by and he drives up the canyon, and you see his lights going up the hill. Pretty soon I looked up there and he didn't see him anymore. Well, no big deal. Well, that afternoon we came back to camp and he was coming out and his quad's all bent up and he could barely move. He got hurt pretty bad, but he was able to get himself out of there finally, but nobody knew where he was. He was by himself. I mean, it's a wonder he didn't just lay there forever. I mean, so yeah, and my mother-in-law has a deal, and I don't know what it's called, but you trip it and it does like the airplane deal and sends out the beacon. It doesn't have any communication other than it sends out that signal, and it was $200-300, and you don't pay a annual fee or anything, but it would at least get the signal. So I don't know what it's called.
So
I have, for those who don't know my background, I spent 20 years in the military, 14 of those as a search and rescue mission planner. So I have a little bit of an insight to this. PLBs are personal location beacons. They are the equivalent of what you have, the black box on an airplane that sends out a signal.
That's what she
And the
had.
nice thing about those is that there's no subscription. So you can literally, once it's registered, and what I would encourage maybe the commission to do, and they could work through us to do a club kit, where we would gift a club kit, basically like a Pelican box, which would have some neat stuff in it that's branded by the commission or the program rather, with the PLB, because the PLB would actually be registered to Acme Off-Road Club with the program manager as the contact. What that does is it keeps the property in the purview of this commission. And if that club ever dissolves, you could hand it off to the next club. Plus, we also have a very good in relationship with industry. You know, for us to go to any of like Garmin, any of those guys, I imagine that we can probably get a really good deal. Alexis, who's our number 2, who's home sick today. She's the operations person for the Off-Road Business Association. So that's the aftermarket side. So I know that we can probably leverage that. I have no problem putting together a proposal completely independent of the other stuff that we have going on for the commission to consider. And we can get that to you before we do any of the grant stuff next year. So you have, you know, like each kit X amount of dollars or whatever it would be. The downside to it is, not the downside, I'll change that. I want to say that the leverage that we could have is this would be a very good way to encourage our communities to start becoming more brick and mortar formal clubs rather than Facebook groups of whatever. Not, they don't need to be protected as well. But if the chairman is the president of that club, now we actually have a point of contact. Because the old brick and mortar style is being surpassed by the social media stuff. And I guess the last thing I want to say on that is medevac insurance. I did the math on this. It was actually a little bit of fun, $75 a year. If you already have it, a lot of insurance companies already have it as part of your program, but check that. And at $75 a year, you actually are coming out ahead for 399 years. 400 years, however, you're wasting money. So 30 to 40 grand for a ride, carry it. It's worth it.
Don't share that information with insurance companies.
Yeah, actually,
Those fees may go up.
you could share that offline as far as where do you find that? Because I saw quotes much higher. So
Become a Farm Bureau member and you can get it really reasonable.
We
We
have
have
a hand raised there. Commissioner Spiro, you have a comment?
Just touching base of what Nikhil started with developing programs. After listening a little bit, I've seen it in the snowmobile industry, specifically with avalanche education, is the sport typically advances far quicker than training, safety, and education protocols. Avalanche education in the last really 5 years has reached a much more precedence and priority. And with that comes good techniques, standardizing. You had all these one-off organizations doing it, and then it takes, you know, as the industry progresses, then you get kind of a central education component with standardized stuff. With that, our local avalanche forecasting center, who's a past grant recipient, has utilized some funds from the grants to help develop something that has become nationally recognized in the industry for safety protocol. And when I talk about avalanche safety, it's not just the snow moving, it's everything that goes into it. So it's ride planning, it's preparation, it's considering your partners, it's assessing conditions for the day. And then at that point, you get a little bit of knowledge of, you know, skill level that your group has, emergency equipment that your group comes prepared with, and a little bit of background on what everybody can contribute. So then you can build and base your plan and your day of attack off of that information. And if you have a weaker group, then you adjust your day accordingly. If you have a stronger group and the conditions align with it, then you know, you can push harder. I don't see the side by side. I'm not as involved, so maybe it's there, maybe it's not. I don't see the side by side community pushing that safety aspect of it near to the level that we are in the snowmobile industry. But a lot of people died to get to this point. And every year we learn more, and we learn more about snow, and we learn more about, you know, how to assess conditions better. Anything that the commission can even start from a statewide standardized education safety, like Commissioner Ravago said, you know, what do you carry? What should you carry? We're constantly kind of improving and changing our recommendations. It's hard to make us standardize, you need this, this, and this, because there is so many variables when you're out there, whether you're hunting or motoing or side-by-siding. But a standardized education component. And, people are going to do it, that people are going to do it. But until it's affecting them on a Veterans Day ride that's casual down a dirt road where everybody kind of assesses we're good here, we're not up in the NAR, we're going to get back to the truck fine. Commissioner Ravago probably has a whole group of people now that are more interested in what I would number one recommend is the wilderness first aid course. That is really the most encompassing emergency out, utilize what you got type of education for whether it be snow, moto, hunting, anybody that visits the outdoors. The wilderness first aid class is by far the most, and it's standardized, it's recognized. If I take it in Idaho, it's going to be the same as it was in Montana, etc. Any way we can bring that to the state of Nevada, maybe clubs facilitating, maybe the state, sets them up. Any way we can bring those educators, because I don't know many in Nevada. There's one in California that does them. I haven't taken one in Nevada. I haven't really researched it either, so it gives me something to bring back to my club. That's the biggest thing. And with that, you'll kind of, through education, you learn what you need. And then as a group, when you're riding with your club, one guy can't carry it all. But as a group, you want to make sure everybody's up to par. So anyway, just to kind of, I don't know if I'm on camera or not. I see the agenda on camera, but if I am, the Sierra Avalanche Center made these simple stickers and they're pretty useful. It's funny how I apply this to my career, as well as anything I go out to do. It's called the Daily Flow, and a video that the OHV Commission helped produce was understanding the daily flow. I recommend it. It's on YouTube on the Avalanche Center's page. Is assessing risk management for the day. So before you leave, you want to consider your partners, which that's the point where you gather what the group's got. You got to anticipate conditions, where we're riding, what it's going to look like, what the weather's going to do, etc. And then you create safety margins. Hey, we're going to keep it under 50 today because of the dust or whatever it may be. And then confirm the details with the group. Make sure everybody's on the same page and you don't have that wildcat that's not gonna participate in it. What do you all have for equipment? What do you got for spare tires? What do you got for wrenches? Well, okay, good. Oh, nobody's got a air compressor. Let's, now we're gonna have to dial back our ride and not get in that rough terrain, because if we encounter a flat tire, we're all in a bit of a trouble type things. And then just going through the rest of the card. And then while you're out through joining on the day, you stop and talk. Everybody, when you pull up and take a break, everyone's like, "Whoa, did you see what I did? Whoa, what's up?" At that point, that's a good spot to trigger. Hey, my machine's been bogging out. I might be getting a flat tire, blah, blah, blah. And then you talk about how cool the ride was. And then you manage your group. It's a good chance to calibrate, see everybody's skill level, maybe dial back the terrain that you were traveling due to experience levels. And then you're always maintaining awareness, whether it be conditions, terrain, or machine. And then at the end of the day, you debrief, you learn from it, and you document it, and then you try to file that so your club has it for an education component. But it's called the Daily Flow. I think I can get a digital copy. It's the only safety sticker I've run on my equipment, and I actually design it right into the wrap of my sled every year. So I have something to talk about every day, no matter who I ride with, where I ride with. I got a set of guidelines that can kind of shape the ride. So there's a lot of opportunity for that, but it takes organization and standardization and somebody to see it through. That's all I got.
Commissioner Sparrow, thank you so much. That was that daily flow. Offline, you could send us a copy or something that we can emulate for the OHV, for the UTV side.
Yeah, I'll actually share the entire book that Sierra Avalanche Center produced for their grant project. I've got a few copies upstairs.
Commissioner Sparrow, you actually answered a question that I had. As a content creator yourself, I was curious about what kind of YouTube videos, messaging for safety. Driving in here this morning, I was driving and looking on our OH off-road page to see if we had safety videos clearly marked. I did put a call in to Laura and I'll put her on the spot, short notice. After this meeting, I will go back into that website. It sounds like with the snowmobile industry or the community, that this type of safety content is readily available on YouTube and other mediums.
Kind of on two sides there, educate snow wise and group management wise, you know, it's vague. It's you find resources that are trustworthy and give good information. But again, we're evolving into there. This year's pretty exciting. A gentleman that's worked on this for years, for the last 3.5 years, just got a centralized station that hopefully the industry adopts, but he did it on his own and it took initiative and commitment. But yeah, what we recommend as a club is you got, you know, your snow safety. So you need your avalanche 1, 2, 3 rescue. So then you can manage conditions. And then you need your personal knowledge where anything like a wilderness first aid, any first aid training. But situationally, not really. It's just that's what you base your group off of. And if you're all incapable, then you're probably going to inherit more risk than, you know, riding out with Matthew, former SAR, first aid, military, right? You know, riding with a doctor, your group's going to be way more capable. Part of, I believe, the grant we did with Trespasser Productions is a safety component of that. So I would hope, you know, I hope that captures it and centralizes a little bit for the OHV Commission on how to manage injury out there. I don't know specifically if they're going into that, but I think so.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, or did I because no, there isn't like I'm going to this website to.
As with anything, there's content that's fair, of varying degrees and for varying purposes, and it's not a one size
for me. But again, then that puts that's liability on me. I'm not a trained first aid responder, you know, emergency medical service. So again, we're touching on things now, which I like just to the public here is we've pulled back on some fire station OHV equipment. We've pulled back on some things just because it didn't fit us. So I know we've got to walk a thin line here. But I say anywhere we can nudge towards helping emergency personnels and making it fit our 490 to get you all everyone the resources they need, the better.
The one thing the commission has funded over the last several years is the Silver State Race Med-X program. And so organized off-road motorcycle racing clubs, at least in the north with Moran Motorcycle Racing Association, Northern Nevada. All of the clubs, I belong to the Gold Diggers MC. We use those individuals. They volunteer to come out and ride our event as sweep riders and offer medical assistance. And then, of course, we will also contract with the local ambulance provider. In our last race, it would have been Elko County Ambulance. So we had the ground medical pretty well covered for a 2-day event. And we got out of there with no major injuries at all. No one was transported. You know, one of the really good things that we tried to do at the beginning of our race, because it was really rocky and technical, and we knew there was a lot of potential for some serious injuries, the riders meetings were really critical. We did a riders meeting before each heat. So every time the riders, before they went up to the starting line, heard the same information. We just didn't do it at the beginning of the day. We had multiple races throughout the day. They all heard the same information. And that, I think, helped kind of get everybody tempered a little bit before they got their adrenaline flowing and went and, you know, rode into a ditch at 50 miles an hour. So that, good information, having on-site EMTs that are actually out riding on the course real time. And then a local ground ambulance provider that if you do need air medical, leave it up to them to make the call versus everybody hitting their spots and trying to get helicopters in there to deal with it. So those are for more organized events, but since the commission funds those guys and gals, it's been great, at least from an off-road club perspective. It offers an entire additional layer of safety that we didn't have before that group existed.
So, Mike, for the Virginia City Grand Prix, how is the medical and recovery operations handled for that event?
A couple of ways. We use the medics are up here also. I forgot, what's the name of them again?
So Silver State Race Medics.
Yeah, they were up here last couple of years. I thought there was another group also. But also conventional. Our fire department locally here is on call and they man the course because the course it's pretty accessible as far as from town with side by sides and ATVs and such. But on occasion we've had helicopters come in for injuries. But basically pretty much conventional response from the county. And then we have the race medics also, so.
Okay.
I would ask though too, like so we have the avalanche centers for the majority of our safety, but is there like a centralized information for the off-road community? Like, I know there's individual entities, but can anybody think of any?
Well, the one other thing I can offer, which maybe this group has done this in the past, but I know the BDR nonprofit, which is Backcountry Discovery Routes. They do every year, they kind of pick up another safety initiative for the adventure riding community. And a couple of years ago, they started one called Ride Right, or they adopted one called Ride Right. And I think that one's as important for the UTV community as it would be for the adventure riding community, because what was happening is a lot of people were getting into head-on collisions on these routes because we're just following GPS routes. They're public roads. Anybody can be on them, a pickup truck, a Jeep, a UTV, but certain areas are more populated than others. So there's a place on the Colorado BDR where you're up on this mountain, the series of mountain passes, and there are UTV rental places at the bottoms down in Silverton and Durango. And people are renting these UTVs and they may not be experienced riders, and they're up on these switchbacks and they're taking up the whole road, and people are on adventure bikes going either way, and no one's riding on the right side of the road because they're these little single, 2-track type roads, and the UTVs are taking up a good portion of it, but they'll get on the left side versus the right side. The adventure bikes are trying to navigate around them, but there's these collisions and people will crash and go off the edge. There's lots of things that can happen. So they adopted that years ago. I don't know if that's a trademarked thing that's out in the off-road community, but it would be something that would be free to advertise. And if everybody will ride right when they're either in sand washes or 2-track roads, avoiding those head-on collisions would be a really cheap way of doing it, and just getting the word out on websites and stickers and things like that. So again, not sure if you guys have done it, but I think it's an easy thing to adopt.
Yeah.
So I heard several things today. This is a discussion only item, so we can't make any sort of a decision today necessarily. I'll look towards our Attorney General to keep me from getting in trouble here. It sounds like it was kind of tacit agreement. Everybody thought it would be a good idea if we, as a program, could provide a safety package to individual groups. So I would say if we had Commissioners Ravago, Calder, and Spiro start looking around and find best management practice information, and make sure you guys work through Nikhil to make sure we don't violate any open meeting law stuff. 3 of you are less than a quorum, so we should be okay with that. And Nikhil, look into how we could create a rather informal grant process for groups to acquire these safety packages. I don't think we need to do as extensive interviews and applications for, like we do for a $500,000 trail. I think, it's an established group, credible folks involved, that sort of thing. I think that's kind of what I heard the discussion going that direction. Get this equipment into the folks and into the hands of these folks, and so an educational component, and I would say based off this management practice that you guys can gather together. Does that sound doable?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good time to have this agenda item because we have a grant round that's open right now, and safety training and education is one of the only ways that we can kind of address this specific topic. So this year, I think that we'll receive multiple safety-related OHV grants, requests for side-by-sides and the like. So today's discussion should serve as kind of a reminder that a lot of these other organizations don't have this existing equipment, and that a lot of people in Nevada like to go out there maybe without a spot. They might know of these resources, but they choose not to use them. And we have to keep that kind of in mind for those individuals. The second item that I'm glad that Commissioner Sparrow brought up as he ran through a list of existing grants. We've kind of invested in the safety training and education aspect multiple times, from Sierra Avalanche Center to Trespasser Productions most recently. In between there, Silver State Race Medics has been supporting all of those organized events. But what are we doing to capture, just like the layman rider, the guy that's out at Prison Hill after work? What is he seeing on a regular basis that's going to help him keep safety in the front of their mind? Things like, again, when you look at snow sports, when you cross a backcountry gate going from inbound skiing to out of bound skiing, there's usually a place where you can buzz in and check that your gear is working before you go out of bounds. It could be just something as simple as statewide signage. Now, 2 projects that weren't mentioned, we have invested pretty heavily with Nevada Outdoor School hosting ATV Safety Institute courses that has some limitations, and with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office to offer dirt bike training to individuals. All of these are free of charge, but they do cost our commission annually in these grants. So think about this when we go into the next year of OHV grants and what comes back out. And finally, I guess in 2024, we should look towards a kind of cohesive, just move in one direction safety training program. I did get to visit Utah in early October and met with their program manager. They have a very comprehensive safety training program that highlights the riding areas in Utah. So when we fund something, we don't want to fund a video that is filmed on the East Coast, for example. It needs to be invested here. And I think that Trespasser Productions project is the first step in that direction. But again, it's a one-off project, not a comprehensive strategy.
Chair, what is this agendized item sort of a quasi-public comment period. In other words, are bringing up any questions, comments, concerns limited to the commissioners and?
No, we'll have public comment. We're kind of getting towards the end, but we'll have public comment. I'd like to kind of get the commission fully flushed out generally,
Yes,
and then we'll have public comment at the end,
perfect. Thank you.
okay?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add just a couple of comments. One is I like Matthew's proposal, what he's presented, along with what Commissioner Sparrow has been talking about. And to build on Nikhil's comment about the single rider, I think we have a lot of those. And so
Be me.
and it would be me too, when I think these programs, something needs to be scalable, whether it's, hey, if you're by yourself, if you're in a group of 5 people or up to 100. Commissioner Ravago, I don't know how many were in your group that day.
30 machines, about 50, 60, yeah.
Right. So to me, the program would need to be somewhat scalable, based on your participants. And then the question of situational terrain, something, and I want to build upon Commissioner Curtis had said, is it an app? Central Nevada was devastated by hurricane or tropical storm Hillary. There are a lot of trails that will not come back unless Forest Service works on them. They're not safe. People are going around, they're creating new areas, which that happens. But making people aware of those areas that have been damaged, I think that's very, very important, because you talk about remoteness, you're not getting Verizon or AT&T. And as Commissioner Calder said, spot or an inReach, it's critical out there for a lot of these rides. And especially in Central Nevada, there is no major hospital. You're going to either Las Vegas or Reno. I like the idea of the sticker, or maybe even a laminated card that could be given to, I know the programs that you guys have been doing in the schools, I thought have been are wonderful, that the kids can take home to their parents and say, hey, if we go, out in the hills, this is what we need to have. Do we have this mom? Do we have this dad? And it ties in with the helmet. And the videos, I like that. The last thing is the app. How can we get with, and I forgot what you said, it was BDR?
Yeah,
BDR.
Backcountry Discovery Route, they have a pretty robust website with a lot of information, but I think some of that's just accessible by anybody. And I think they would, even if they have it trademarked, I'm sure they would share it. Although they probably got it from somebody else.
And I like the idea of the, hey, this trail's restricted, and Nikhil and I had a conversation earlier. I did reach out to Endow. I'm waiting for them to get back to me on those overpasses for animals that have been constructed throughout Nevada. We do have some riders that are going through those areas, and technically they're corridors for deer and game, elk, antelope, etc. And that those are off limits. They're not meant for us to traverse over. So just as a reminder, and having an app that would pop up and say, hey, don't cross these areas. Or thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice if the different road departments would maybe post at the highway, the road is out. When we were down in Tonopah, I went out to that moon craters, and I was gonna go back up to Highway 50 through the desert. 50 miles in, there's an orange cone across the washout. Would have been nice to know at the highway.
They could even notify us in Mason Valley when the bridge was closed, that if you turn here, the bridge is closed a mile away. I mean, the state road department, the county, nobody even put a sign up.
Okay.
So,
And to build one more, I just read, Nye County Road Department just passed or changed their ordinance, not ordinance, but their policy on snow plowing in areas outside of Beatty up. Unless there's 6 inches of snow, they're not plowing the roads. They just don't have the resources. Yep. And if it's height of a storm, they're not plowing it. If it is emergency, they will go out. But other than that, it's kind of moving back to the old days. They just don't have the resources. I understand that. But that is something that we all need to be aware of. And when I go back to situational terrains, you may be going into areas where there's no snow, but as you climb up an elevation, you're now into a foot of snow or 2 feet of snow. And can you get out of it with your UTV?
Okay, do we have any public comment on the internet?
None so far.
See anybody trying to get in?
Is there a lobby participant?
There was, I invited Kevin Bailey just got admitted in, and Gene is the only other guest.
Okay. I'll see none. Do we have any public comment in the room?
Governor Lott, thanks for the opportunity. Great conversation, and I think it's so important, safety. I just wanted to say, my husband's an adventure rider, and years ago, I insisted he get a satellite phone back before spots, which is kind of hard to carry because they're kind of big. And we both carry spot devices. I can't recommend them enough. And we've got the medevac, and I think all these suggestions are really important. Both of us are out alone a lot of the time. I'm real slow on my bike. Nobody wants to go with me. I'm as slow as I am on the Jeep. But I think all your suggestions are really well taken. My husband used to carry a spot device in his backpack. And I said, please put it on your strap so that when you're thrown, you can activate it and your phone on your strap of your pack. So now he wears them in front, and he actually did need it when he got thrown off his bike way up north of Ely. And he did have a fellow that was with him, but typically they ride kind of far apart because of dust and because of speed. So he was able to use his phone. And I also insist that he create a spot when he's riding. He lets me know when he's starting, where he's going, and I can track his progress for where he's frequently way out in the middle of nowhere. So if the track stops, it's like, what's going on? So, but I think I'd love to see later on an action item where you guys can really come, because you had so many great ideas and out riding. I kind of see some issues about helmets and armor. And the latest thing in adventure riding apparently is he got an airbag suit from Italy. So when he falls, it activates, so I think that's protection armor in addition to helmets.
How would you like to see the OHV dollars be used towards safety?
I think it's an awesome idea, what you're suggesting, the Ride Right program and your videos and grants and promoting. I think the outdoor school does a great job, and Tread Lightly. Everything you're doing already is excellent. And as you said, putting more on the website, and just, I think everyone, all of us being out there, especially you guys, you seasoned riders, and educating in the field. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair White, I just one observation. I was camping Lake Mead this weekend and walking around by Boulder Beach. There are these stations, and they're called lifeguard or life vest loaner stations. I don't know if they have them out here. Matthew, do you think that's even feasible, or for the whole group? Do you think that's even feasible in some of these riding areas to have a?
Like a check in, check out?
It's an honor system. And again, life vests or PFDs are $20 to $100 bike helmet or kayak helmet.
I think the larger issue which we're going to run into, and this gets back to some comments about the washed out roads and so on, is that the overwhelming majority of the public lands we have here in Nevada are not under a current management or travel management plan. So as soon as we start trying to do anything which makes so much sense to the end user, there's a roadblock up in Reno or the local field office manager. So we're really restricted to doing things on county lands, kind of think of it as an information gateway. One of the things that we tried to do, like Tonopah's perfect example, the staging area there, those kiosks and signage, everybody's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm like, the reason we do that is not a lecture, but to kind of convey some of those safety points that Tread Lightly puts out, the outdoor school puts out, and even BDR. I'm sitting here looking at the Ride Right program. A lot of this stuff has overlay, and I think that we can likely consolidate it under the Tread Lightly grant program that they already have going, both through RTP and this program, and really push that very hard. And give you a little tip to kind of have everybody in the back of their mind. One of the things that we tried to do whenever we put up a kiosk sign is have a little bit of cultural interpretation there. Not because we want to talk about necessarily, the snail population or the history of the mountains or the mines or whatever. So what happens is that when you have that there, people stand in front of it, read it, and look at the pictures. And then all of a sudden that panel right next door, which is the Don't Be a Dummy panel, they've spent time in front of that too. And that's where they're going to get some of that less lecture-y type user information. And that's the strategy we've been using.
Yeah, I'd like to build on that. Having a recommendation sign, hey, before you leave, these are some of the things that we recommend, that we're not telling you what to do. We recommend.
Like that?
Yeah. And it's like, whether it's a tow strap, it's a first aid kit, or an air compressor, or do you have plugs for your tires? Yep, water.
I will
And
task
a beacon.
I will task Laura Butcher from Tread Lightly. We're going to be probably into Winnemucca tomorrow for a class, so we will hammer this out and kind of come up with a plan. And it's already covered under her grant anyway. The signage is already covered. It's just a matter of getting them produced and put out on the public lands or the county lands where we have that interface. It's pretty easy to do, and they may already have it in place. I'm just not aware.
Okay. We're all good? All right. Let's move on to item number 10, grant application question and answer. Possible action. Gil, what do you got going on?
So, applications, question and answer, I left it for possible action in the event that we have any changes to discuss after item number 10. I did want to talk about item number 9 first, maybe, OHV program update, just give you a quick rundown of what we've been up to since end of September. Yep.
Yeah, we have to do number 9.
I wanted to buy some time for number 10 as well. Okay, so since we met on September 20th in Tonopah, pretty much right after getting back, we took off to Midway, Utah for an annual conference. We don't usually go out of state with our dollars, but this one we serve as a state partner with Novak and Innova, two nonprofit organizations related to OHV conservation. During that time, I was able to meet with the program managers from Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and Idaho, but also Oregon. So Utah, Arizona, and Oregon are, I think, have the most robust programs with the least amount of, I guess, overhead. They're putting dollars on the ground. They've got active grants, and they've got pretty well-built safety programs. I've brought it home, but I haven't had enough time to kind of unpackage it and make something specific for Nevada. Hopefully, by our next meeting, we'll see, well, maybe not by January's meeting, but in the near future, we want to kind of build out this program in more of a pyramid where there's more accountability for certain specific aspects of the program. Maybe somebody is only focusing on the open meeting laws and interacting with the public, and the OHV grants and that administration is focused on by another individual. I've got a few notes that to kind of debrief from the Novak conference, but immediately after getting back, October 15th, we had our Q3 reports due. We received 42 grant reimbursement requests. All of our active projects where shovels are in the ground or the project has seen billing are continuing to provide reports. We do have a few projects, unfortunately, that haven't started. So they haven't taken the first step in spending dollars or breaking ground on their project that was awarded back in January. Looking forward, I think that we should start putting some tighter timelines on when that money starts being used and kind of clarify when the quarterly reports are required. So right now, they're required every 90 days, and they include a reimbursement request. I'm in a situation where I get reimbursement requests maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, and then our quarterly reporting process is only audited every 90 days. So there's a lot of it's just not kind of in a clear box of when we should be doing quarterly reimbursements and how that looks like. Unfortunately, we have a 15-day turnaround for paying these reimbursements, and we're barely keeping up with that. But we're at the end of November here, and I do have some pending reimbursements that still haven't been paid because of errors in that reporting process. That continues to be an ongoing challenge, but that's not the only task on the desk. We also opened the new round of OHV grants. At this point, because we're opening them every 6 months, I think we've got a pretty resilient application that's protected. Navora helped me build that, and this time we just have a few minor changes on our OHV website. Before getting into item number 10, the last, I guess, program update that we'd have is we're nearing our 1 year kind of end date. We're supposed to transfer our web services to a contract by July 1st of 2024. And that's kind of creeping up on us really quickly. I also need to find a way to administer our grant applications and reimbursements through a grants management software. Okay, now to get to the grant application. The largest change that we've adopted the same scoring criteria as last year. We'll have to host a technical advisory meeting this year. Just a quick rundown of the grants timeline. We got the grants opened on, I believe it was November 15. Let me just pull up a calendar here. So this is also going to be a pretty tight turnaround for the grant people looking to apply to this process. Grants were opened on November 15. That's about 9 days after our goal of November 6. Grants will be due on January 5th. And that is, I moved the date to the end of the week, just because I opened them too late. Between January 5th and our proposed meeting date of January 23rd, we're going to need to host that technical advisory committee meeting and deem that all of these grant applications are complete. In order to get complete applications, in talking with Matthew, we've decided to offer 2 mandatory meetings for grant coaching. Those mandatory meetings the action item on number 10 here is to identify when those meetings will occur and authorize Navora to help oversee all of the administration of both of those meetings. That's really what I wanted to get out of this question and answer. I don't think right now we have too many members of the public that would ask questions about the grant application process. We'd also want to encompass any changes to our grant application or that schedule that I spoke on based on the commission's input.
And say again, the 2 critical meetings you want Navora's help with, January 23rd, and what was the other?
No, so I explained that really poorly, so I'm gonna try that one again.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna share the screen and hopefully that will,
So Nikhil, just a question, you're kind of, it's like when a government entity is gonna go out to bid on a big project, we'll hold mandatory pre-bid conferences.
yeah,
So if you're gonna even submit a bid, you have to attend the mandatory pre-bid, or we won't even accept your bid if we get one.
that's right.
Is that the concept?
That's exactly the concept, yes. Jesse Bigler. All right, so we're sharing the screen. This is the homepage of the website. I think that in the past there was some, sorry. Here's the homepage of the website. In the past, there was some confusion on where meeting documents are being stored or where to access OHV grant information. Okay, commission documents are going to be right here on the far right side of the screen. If you click commission, it takes you to the OHV Commission's website. Here you'll see all of our members, their information. And if we had internet, you'd have a YouTube video series that gives you a list of our playlist of OHV Commission meetings. The next meeting's always populated right here, November 28, September 20, July 17. When you click on it, it gets you to all of the meeting documents, okay? Once again, from the homepage, to get to grants, scroll over to the grants tab and click on grants. Okay, then you get to the grants program. On one side, you have a year to view instructions and documents. And then the second side is this list where the applications are available to the public. So we're going to open up January 2024. From the homepage, this button is also pinned right there at the top. Okay. New for 2024, applicants must attend one mandatory grant coaching meeting to apply. Our application has not changed since the last 6 months. It seems to be filled correctly, although I've heard recently that there are some corrections on there that should be made. What is new is a meeting on December 5th during business hours, proposed meeting on December 5th during business hours, and a meeting on December 7th in the evening, let's say around 7 p.m., so that those that are working can still attend. The concept is that anybody that wants to apply for a grant must attend one of these two grant coaching meetings. They'll all be offered online. What I'd like to kind of discuss between these two items and figure out is what all we should cover during those grant coaching meetings. They should only be focused on submitting a successful or submitting a complete application that is within the parameters of NRS 490. Everything else, vetting and awarding the applications will be done in January. Are there any other topics that we should be covering during those two meetings?
And you're talking about December 5th and 7th, like next week.
Like next week?
Okay. Is that enough time for people to be able to attend one of the meetings? Do you need to have possibly one of those meetings a week beyond there? What if they're out of town?
I think that when we get closer to that end date, we start getting more people that just want to scramble to get their application together. And right now we have the opportunity to say, you should have been thinking of these grants have been coming around 6 months for 2 years now. So it's no surprise. And I say we set the meeting dates and just kind of stick with them. Right now, we kind of have the authority to guide this grants program. So let's set the rules that make the January meeting as smooth as possible. Because we can't continue to suffer with incomplete applications and things like that.
So I would say in that regard that this coaching meeting is now mandatory, but with only a week's notice. Perhaps you should make some extra effort that potential grantees that you know of are aware that they have to do either December 5 or 7.
Okay.
I mean, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, but.
Mhm.
um, Yes, Commissioner Spiro?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any like Attorney General side stuff if we implement this, say in this meeting, does it and say we're to vote on it to make these mandatory, is there any 30-day of re-agendized to approve to notify the public to make this mandatory to even provide just to keep our balances? Because it might catch some people off guard it being next week. I know they should know it's coming, but they don't know that this is coming.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Nicole Ting here. I'm not aware specifically of any time requirement, but I'd like to look into that further, and I can get back to you soon.
I wouldn't view these coaching meetings as a public meeting that would fall under, the public noticing and such, but I think it is kind of short notice.
Should we relook at those dates and offer them closer to January 5th?
Well, do the applicants, I mean, does the deadline for the applications, that's already passed?
No, deadline for the applications are January 5. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, well, that just,
Nikhil, I agree. Sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
it just seems, if you don't even have them, the deadline, I understand you want them to get coaching so they can have it done, but if they haven't even put in an application yet, or haven't, I don't know, that's what I don't understand.
Right. So the deadline has to occur after these two coaching meetings. The intent of the coaching meeting is so that the applicant knows exactly what it takes to submit a complete application. That way, when January 5th or January 6th comes around and we're looking through applications and one is incomplete, I can toss it out without any worry of without any worry. I can say that it's incomplete and remove it, which we didn't do. Yeah, go ahead.
Nikhil, my recommendation would be not to do them back to back so tight. I do 1 week, a week right before Christmas, and maybe because this is so new, we're offering a third one right before the week after Christmas, if it's going to be based on the schedule. And I know they're online if that's possible. And I think it needs to be very clear that, hey, this is the window of training. If nobody shows up, we document it's closed. Not that you have to sit there for an hour and somebody jumps in at the last 10 minutes of the meeting and expects to be trained. It starts at this time.
Sorry, I may have missed this. Is this like a group Zoom type of like a workshop where multiple grant applicants are
Yes.
okay on the floor and then?
Right.
So what I would suggest is let's take that December 5 date and move it, because I know you already have a conflict with the RTP program, and we move that to the week after. And then we can actually even save a backup date closer to Christmas.
Right
so-
after.
Yeah, in that block, I've got some stuff that's already booked, but I can work around that. And even if by that time we will have done it twice, and make no mistake about it, all this really is this block has to be filled out, and here's where you're going to get that information. It's not, here's what I think. It's just literally what the program requires.
No, and I agree. I'm looking in my old days, looking at USDA used to do this same program or offer. I think CDBG did very similar training. Hey, this is how you fill it out. This is nothing out of the norm. I don't know about whether we throw out the applications. I think Nicole's gonna be able to answer that for us. But I think it's critical.
That's the direction we have set. If you're not complete, we're not going to consider it.
Right, no, I agree,
Don't
but
have-
that should be in the vetting, but the question, I think, Mr. Chair, the question is, if I do not attend this training, I can't even submit an application. That's what we're saying now, which is completely different versus if I submit a complete application, it should be accepted. And I think that's where Nicole's gonna have to get that answered for us, in my opinion.
The question that I would have for the commission on this topic would be, if you are already a current grant recipient, let's use the Nevada Outdoor School for an example. Do they have that same standard to attend for a pre-application meeting or a coaching session?
At this point, I'm gonna say yes, because even though
Only one complete last time.
our returning applicants are substantially incomplete repeatedly.
I'm tracking. I just want to get that verbally out there.
And I'm gonna speak on this. We should not, in that vetting process between January 5th and the January 23rd commission meeting, we should not have any incomplete applications. We should, when we sit down and we review them, they should all be complete. And if there's only one, or there's none, or there's 40, they're all complete. And that should be the expectation.
That's my thought, part of what the technical advisory committee does is review them for completeness. If they're not complete, I don't even want to see them.
Matthew, as a grant assister and a grant recipient, for past grants or reviewing grants such as the one, does it help a grant applicant to look at past grants that were approved in the website? How far do we go back on this?
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
Because could that be a prerequisite to the coaching to be professionally prepared is, hey, these are some safety grants or these are some trail improvement grants.
I think there's value in that, but it also kind of gets back to the, if I were applying for the first time ever, I would go up here and see who applied, and I would see who was awarded, and then I'd also go and look and see how much they were awarded. You know, because there's a finite amount of funding available, number one, but you know, if I put in that I wanted to buy widgets to give to everybody, and I found out the last guy that wanted to give away widgets only got 10% of what they asked for, I'd want to find out what that is so I can maximize my grant potential. You know, so that's on the, in my opinion, you guys are the deciders. In my opinion, that's incumbent on the applicant, not on the system. They can do their own damn homework.
Well, I want to add one thing. If I was doing that brand new and I went and looked at past applications that are incomplete, I would think, okay, that's the guideline. And that's why I think this training is, and what these workshops are critical to establish that now, because our past applications we've awarded that have been.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why I've made such a nuisance of myself over the last several meetings.
That's not the only reason.
I'm done putting up with incomplete applications. Not interested.
And one last thing, commissioners, is that my expectation is to explain what's required. If someone gets a letter from a landowner, you know, Mr. Smith, the farmer rancher, and it doesn't meet the criteria that the commission would want, I personally would still consider that a complete application, because it's not our position to judge whether or not the content is fulfilling all the benchmarks, and whether or not you think maybe there's like some sort of like weirdness going on with that. That's entirely up to you guys.
Right.
You know, if that piece of paper's in there, it's complete.
Yes.
And you guys can go, nice try. You're not buying widgets for everybody. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Awesome.
So at this point, are you in communication with any groups that would be a new request?
I think there's one new request that was asking questions about the dates for this meeting. I plan to follow up with them after today. It sounds like after our discussion, we do need to host a third meeting before New Year's, after Christmas timeframe, right?
Okay.
Do we have support to let Navora run with this, with these coaching meetings? Yeah, okay.
And we're going to record them all so you can check on my behavior. And that's a good thing to do, just saying.
You're right.
But we will. We'll put them up on our YouTube channel as well. And the nice thing about that is it also affords people moving forward for subsequent applications to know what they're looking at. And some of those questions will be answered before they even have to sit through this the next time through.
And eventually, once you get this down to a science, and we have a very complete and comprehensive video Perhaps the requirement is watch the video
Yep.
and not, right?
That's my goal.
Perfect. Okay. So,
Nikhil and I will set the date after Christmas when I get a chance to really look at my calendar. Did we want to move that 5th of December date to the week after? I know you have a tight schedule
Don't
coming
want
up.
to. I don't want to, but what's your?
It's your guys' call. I'm unconcerned.
It's new to me. I didn't know if all the applicants know that of the date, because there isn't much time to,
Mhm.
that's the only thing I don't.
Have to
I think
notice.
3 opportunities ought to be sufficient, especially that week between Christmas and New Year's. You know,
I just didn't know how much notice they'd have, especially 2 in the same week if you're gone that
Well,
week.
one, any of the returning grantees are aware this is coming. And secondly, like I said earlier, maybe a little extra effort to make sure everybody is notified.
We will get out on our social media as well, for people who might be on the fence about whether to apply or not, or people that might be looking to apply for the next round or the summer round rather, you know, so they can kind of get a feeling for it.
So do we actually need a motion and a vote, or can you just do this on advisement? It is noticed as possible action.
I don't think there's anything to take action on.
Okay,
As long as we can, I've already noticed on our website that these 2 meetings are mandatory.
right.
If we add a third one, that's
We've
okay.
already taken that action in the past.
Right. So I'm not sure what the action would be for this one. We can do let's host the meetings on December 5, December 7, and we'll host another one before the new year.
Okay.
The end date is also posted, so I can't change the January 5th end date.
You don't want to change that.
Sharon?
Will this coaching session on Zoom be recorded? Is there any value for us commissioners to watch these videos or and be in attendance, moderate? Just curious.
I was just going to ask Nikhil to make sure that I was going to ask for me, but I think your question is very viable, that all of the commissioners are aware of when these are. And I wouldn't suggest that the commissioners have any real input during those meetings, but maybe afterwards, working with Nikhil, if you want to see the meeting go a little different content, or whatever suggestions or comments you might have, feedback to Nikhil. So again, we can eventually have a really good video.
I'm digging it.
Okay, and maybe we keep working on it through the next round before we have a video that we're really happy with.
I would really sincerely appreciate any critiques for anything that you've seen that we've done on it. Because again, you know, you never learn when you do things right, you only when you screwed it up, so.
Right. Okay,
I'd say pass all of the notes to Navora. Matthew isn't bound by the public open meeting laws. Everybody can communicate with him. He's going to be helping host or run these meetings as the end result.
Right.
Yeah, and Alexis
And
will
then-
have to be the one that'll compile them, note wise and everything else, so you'll be able to read the handwriting.
So
As commissioners, by all means, attend these meetings as kind of flies on the wall. If you have a grant project that you're interested in submitting, then attend as a grant applicant
Right.
and ask all of the questions there on.
and I would say, while this is an official meeting, if you will, of the program, not of the commissioners, just be careful we don't violate any open meeting law while we're there.
yeah, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that we would be sent the videos after the training session, after it was done, then we could view it and then give our feedback. That way, we're not violating any open meeting law. If Because I'm not planning on attending these. I just want to observe and see
Same.
what message is of, hey, fill out box number 1 with your name. We start there. Okay, are you clear? Well, that seems like way to finish your friend.
Yeah.
You know, do you have all the permits? Well, what's your definition of permits?
Right.
That type of information.
Landowner letters
Right.
especially.
Exactly.
Recording is good.
And I realize, not to open that whole discussion again, I realize it's hard to get a letter from BLM when you don't even have the grant yet. I get that, but
Be interesting to see what the effectiveness and efficiency of time,
right.
instead of an all-day marathon rant round meeting it would be very interesting how we can compress.
And hopefully I won't have 47 questions every single application.
There, what was it? Did you read page 5, 9, item 7 or whatever it was? It's like,
Just have
the
a sign.
last 3 people should have come right out and said, I have read this.
Make that a checkbox on the.
Nikhil, just a quick question on the meetings. Will there be an option for them to attend physically if they have things they need to show you or anything?
No, at this time, we'll have to do, just with the timeline, we're gonna have to do everything online. If we do need to do anything in person,
Maybe we could look at that in the spring for the summer thing.
yeah,
Come in and get a conference room somewhere.
Yeah.
I can get an out of government room, so that again, we're not having a government meeting or whatever the stipulations are.
So do we have a goal as far as going back to January 23rd to cut the meeting time in half? Is that kind of a benchmark instead of 14-hour meetings?
So in a roundabout way, yes.
Perfect.
The real goal is complete, and I don't want to say concise, but complete and concise applications. That, somebody doesn't have 47 questions on.
And then, well, I was gonna ask going to the meeting with the advisory group, are you guys gonna provide a recommendation and kind of a breakdown? Would take it to the next level, in my opinion, and maybe have these fit this category, here's the rank that we put these in, and this is why.
the advisory committee is exactly supposed to provide you notes and a ranked list of OHV grants. That's what you should receive, and then you should be able to assign dollar amounts to each OHV grant. In the last meeting, our program, I myself forwarded all of the grants to you in a ranked order, and you just chose to fund certain ones. In there, we funded the lowest ranked application in full. Okay, so that the commission holds the authority to award the grant funds. Our technical advisory committee will do our best to give you all of the information you need to make that decision. These meetings are so that we get complete applications for the tech.
No, I agree. I know we're just evolving and just going back to, because that was, I'm glad you brought that up because that's where I was going. It was ranked before we flipped it on you.
Switched it.
Well, I could see the meetings going almost as long anyway, just because you got to hash through it and figure out where you want to put the money or where you think. So, I mean, time wise, and especially if you get more applicants or something, it could end up eventually, maybe not this time, but if you have 10 more applicants, you may spend all day there.
So I do have the privilege to sit on the Recreation Trails Program Committee. They have over 30 applications, and each applicant gets time to present, so the committee gets to ask them questions. And similarly, the OHV Commission sits for 2 days because usually there's a series of presentations, and that's where the time goes. In the future, we could do multiple days if that helps, instead of doing the marathon.
Okay, you have enough direction?
Don't buy me a return ticket next time. Somebody took me if I.
Okay. I think we should take public comment on this agenda item. Any public comment on the internet?
Oh, hi, it's Nicole from the AG's office. I think this was kind of addressed already, but if any commissioners did want to attend the coaching meetings, we would need to be careful that a quorum wasn't present.
Okay. Yeah, so if we end up with a quorum, we'll just have somebody step off and attend the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Maybe.
Public comment?
schedule this that way or something.
Yeah.
I don't see any on the internet, no hands.
Kevin
raised.
Bailey.
Okay, go ahead. Kevin? We're not getting you complete, Kevin.
I did not hear that.
You're cutting in and out.
I don't know if
Why don't you give Nikhil a call real quick and he'll field your answer if you can? Will that work?
Yeah.
Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, we'll wait for, yes.
Nikhil, is there a chat that you can access on Teams?
The chat's
Oh.
disabled because it's hard to make minutes off the chat.
Okay.
I apologize. I do need to go. I have another commitment. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me. If there's any questions, if I pose anything up, let me know.
All righty.
Take care. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you. Be safe.
Yeah.
Because I got another meeting too.
I'm gonna call Kevin Bailey here and
Can you hear me?
yes, I can. Kevin, you're on speakerphone in our OHV meeting.
My question was, can you state who sits on the technical advisory committee? I don't think I heard that clarified.
What was the question?
Technical.
Who sits on the technical
Who sits
advisory
on the
committee?
technical advisory?
Kevin, I'll answer that right now. In the years past, it has been the 4 non-voting members of the OHV Commission. That's a representative from the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and I believe, and the,
Wasn't
And
there
park.
outdoor recreation?
oh, sorry, and the Commission on Tourism. Those are the 4 non-voting members. We've also engaged with Division of Wildlife so that the habitat biologist can sit on there, as well as the Recreation Trails Program staff in state parks, because they manage the federal funds that commonly interact. And then our OHV program, I'll also sit on that advisory committee, comprised of 8 members.
Okay, thank you. That completes item number 10. Let's go to item number 11. Commissioner Roundtable. Roundtable, any final thoughts?
I'm good.
I just want to thank Commissioner Rebalgo for bringing up this agenda item. Very, very important item. Learned a lot today. I'm glad we had this discussion. I hope that person that was in your group can get better.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. Appreciate that. Thanks, James.
Don't have anything. Adams. Commissioner Calder.
Nothing here.
We already did do. Ken, do you have anything else?
Is that Ken?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you all for allowing me to present on the safety topic, and I think it was a very fruitful and impactful discussion. I hope these action items that we listed, I hope we take action on them as soon as possible. Just to summarize, the emergency PAC quasi committee was consists of myself, Commissioner Calder, and Commissioner Sparrow. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. One final.
Wait, Commissioner, and what are you going to provide to to me?
Well, that's what we talked about
Give instructions.
at item number 8.
Mhm.
You know,
Some
these
best
guys are
management
gonna
practices.
gather best practices as far as, you know, what should be in a safety kit, what procedures, what sort of training, that kind of thing. You're going to look at, can we create some sort of a abbreviated grant request to get this safety kit and training into the hands of the different groups that provide these rides.
I will email, sorry to cut you off there, Chair. I will email you a pack that was created by our trail master out of the Dunson Trails. It illustrates all the items. I'll also ask him for a digital inventory. So we'll start really small, nuts and bolts with what's in that current pack. And then, like, as Chair White alluded to, we can work on the best practices, et cetera.
You know, things like how often should you inspect and replace the items that are in that pack? I know my girlfriend has a blood issue, so we carry these little packets of coagulant. Well, you get to looking at them a year later, they're packed hard as a rock. How often should you replace something like that? If that's what's going to be in the kit, you know, how long? What's the shelf life of the Band-Aids bouncing around in the back of a dusty OHV, right?
Absolutely, yes. So the three of us will coordinate with you, Nikhil.
Inspected it annually or something.
One final, as far as the a future meeting, I will keep asking. I will keep lobbying for a Las Vegas venue in 2024. As a salesperson, I know the no's get weaker the more you ask, right? If I have to close you 10 times, I'm going to close you 10 times, right?
You need some big bright lights shining at us while you're doing that.
Chair White, if you thought F1 was a big draw, if you think the future Super Bowl is a big draw, just imagine an OHV commission meeting. Could you imagine the boost in the economy? I'm complete.
So I would
Still
add
like
just
big city.
one more comment on the safety stuff. You know, a lot of people put a fire extinguisher in their house. A lot of people put a fire extinguisher in their vehicle. Do you realize that very minute microscopic powder that's in there settles in packs? Oftentimes, when an ABC fire extinguisher is used, you get less than half of the retardant comes out because it's packed.
Or it doesn't even work.
You should
Interesting.
invert and shake your fire extinguisher every 30 days. 30 days. Otherwise, it begins to pack.
There's so many things that we could discuss. Who carries fuel on their rides? You know, you'll get comments pro and against. But I did not know that about the fire extinguisher.
Oh, yeah,
So if we went out to all 30 rigs on this past Veterans Day ride, if we did a test, there's a high failure rate. There's a probability for a high failure rate on a lot of those extinguishers.
Ask the question,
Yeah.
when have you touched that fire extinguisher since you put it in the bracket of your rig? What have you done to that fire extinguisher since you put it on there?
Well, try welding
answer
on
is-
your haystack or,
It gets enough bouncing on the trails, you know? It gets enough.
well, firsthand, I'm welding on my bale stacker and caught it on fire, get the fire extinguisher out of the cab. Nothing, not even a squirt. I mean, so then you're running with, because I had to run like 100 yards to get a bucket of water to run over, throw it on it, back and forth. So,
Yeah.
We saved most of it,
There's maintenance involved in this kind of equipment, so,
especially fire
you know,
extinguishers.
So like a checklist.
yeah.
Expiration
Fire
checklist.
extinguisher, you need to check quite
Fire
often.
extinguisher should be on there, right? Yeah.
They're halogen ones, but I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. Or the
You
Halo
can,
ones or
but
whatever.
because they're, that product is considered carcinogenic now, they've gone to SF2 or something like that.
'Cause those
It's-
was good.
Yeah, they did. Of course, all the stuff that works.
It's good to get used.
Like a CO2 fire extinguisher. Other than the bulk and the weight, that's what should be being used, not ABC. Anyway, any final public comment?
Just more on the commissioner roundtable. Let the commission know I'm working with a couple of people out of the Elko County area to maybe enhance their avalanche education, much like we funded rescue courses through the Sierra Avalanche Center. Just trying to get the information out to Elko County that there is opportunities for avalanche education out there through the OHV Commission. It is, and that would also open it up for some of the Nevada Rangers that we fund their winter program to get an actual certification and education component. And but they're slow at getting their ducks in a row. So I keep prodding, but it's another part of the state that goes underserved. Just trying to push them.
Okay,
That's all.
and I didn't catch a name when that started. Who was that? Was that Commissioner Sparrow?
Yeah.
Commissioner Sparrow, sorry.
Okay.
Snowmobile guy. I'm on the TV. I thought you saw me talking, but I'm behind you.
That's behind us.
Okay. Any final public comment in the room?
Wanting to get out of here, but Robin Arnold again, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here. And this is a really fun meeting because everybody, all your varied inputs and experiences and from different parts of Nevada. And I really appreciate everything the commission's doing with the grants. And I see when I'm traveling around rural Nevada, I think there's a real change and more awareness of safety and preservation of the natural resources, which I really appreciate. And I appreciate your patience and respectfulness and responses to my inquiries. I know I'm kind of a controversial entity here some of the time, and I appreciate that response. And I just want to be part of preserving the resources that allow us to enjoy our Nevada lands like all of you are doing. And I appreciate your efforts on that part. And for developing the opportunities throughout our state to ride. I think it's awesome and it's everywhere now. And I think it's because of all your influence. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Perfect.
So we're supposed to wear helmets? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not swinging by OHV or Stacy.